Hey everyone, and welcome to Dank Ferric. Today we're going to dive into and go over the end of the cloning program and how the Empire saw fit to turn away from Kamino and to look to enlisted troopers. This all rides on the back of the Bad Batch episode 15, so if you have not seen it yet, then come back once you have if you care for spoilers. But if you don't, without further ado, let's get into the end of the clones as it is now cemented into official Star Wars canon. So if you saw the Bad Batch episode 15, we came to see the tragic end of the future of the clones, many remaining clones, and Kamino's capital as a whole. As we know, for months on end now, since the rise of the Galactic Empire, Admiral Rampart and Admiral Tarkin have been looking into a way to turn out more soldiers and also cut costs for the Imperial military. Sometime back, we saw them discussing cutting out the clone program altogether to achieve this. Their logic when it comes to credits here is pretty sound. Clone troopers are extremely expensive to produce, and the Kaminoans gave a very quality and effective product to them. The Kaminoans know it, and they will charge for it accordingly. But this new empire was to be grand, and by this point, the clones effectively were a means to an end, so the process of removing them began bit by bit. Now, going forward, we see the clones begin to execute the first standing orders of the Empire. But once that job was done, Palpatine and his Empire began the TK Trooper program, aka what we know as Stormtroopers. These were the enlisted men and women dedicated to the Empire because they wanted to fight for it, because they believed in it, or because they needed the credits. And in truth, the short time it was up and running, it showed effectiveness in this era anyways. The numbers flowed in across countless worlds, and the Galactic Empire began to see costs be cut. Many of these TK troopers were trained by or led by remaining clone troopers or even clone commandos. This was all to ensure they had elite skills to match the name of their force, or at least that was the idea. Though now, moving forward ahead again with the TK Trooper program now in motion and enlistments on the rise, the end of the clone troopers nears even further. This is where episode 15 of Star Wars The Bad Batch kicks in. Now, just before the events of this episode, we saw the Prime Minister of Kamino be removed from his position and his fellow people be driven out of their positions as the cloners. With the Kaminoans out of the way and Kamino now under full Imperial control, we find Admiral Rampart. He's a heavy Imperial loyalist who's constantly working to shape the Empire in more effective, brutal ways. So what does he do here? He pulls out all of the enlisted non-clones from Kamino's facilities. He boards them up on shuttles, and yes, he takes a few clones with them too. It is in this moment, with Clone Force 99 and other clones in the city, as well as many other Kaminoans no doubt, that a bombardment is ordered by Admiral Tarkin to Rampart. So we see several Venerator-class Star Destroyers descend from orbit of the oceanic world and lay havoc to Kamino's prime city and facilities. And in that time, Kamino as we have known it since episode 2, Attack of the Clones, is absolutely destroyed. So tell me, how did this hit you guys when you watched the episode? Were you saddened to see Kamino wiped out in this way? Yes, the world itself still stands for now, but the main city and the facilities as we knew them, as we grew up with these stories and watched them, that's all entirely obliterated. And that felt very Imperial, to me anyways. It was a very effective way to show the tyranny and absolute force of Palpatine's Empire and what they are willing to do to bring their vision of order, standard, and sense to the galaxy. But in the end, I was a bit sad to see Kamino go, though I will be clear, I do appreciate how it really grounded the story in. It gave it weight, and it showed there's consequences to what the Empire is doing, and I really do appreciate that. Still, let me know your thoughts in the comments on episode 15, whether you loved it or hated it, and let me know what you think about the fate of the cloning program and Kamino itself. Until next time, this has been Dank Ferric, the Force will be with you, now and always.